Second stage of the 13th Arctic Race of Norway, destination Ardennes, and ultimately to be the most northerly part of this entire race. Destination the north, and some spectacular scenery as ever along the way. The last day though for the sprinters. Who on earth is going to land a big one? Time to go racing, and this is what we're dealing with. 2 Category 2 tests along the way. A late intermediate sprint as ever with bonus seconds up for grabs. 180 kilometres ahead of us. Who would be tempted? Well, just look at it. Inclement weather at the start of the day. About to go racing, and all the jerseys on the front line. The Midnight Sun jersey belonging to Stage 1 winner Giovanni Lunardi. And a busier start, it has to be said, at the top of the day. Yesterday, 5 riders were let go almost immediately. This was far more of a sterling battle. Well, the clouds cleared, but the rain came down. It didn't dampen the enthusiasm to get off and up the road. Some quick change arts had to be engaged. And then all of a sudden, the King of the Mountains was almost upon us. The man who holds the Northern Lights jersey, driving on, but was Van Beckham that took it ahead of Baxas and Fuldager. 1 climb down then, points for the Mountains jersey, and possibly enough. There was a regathering amongst the pack before 5 brave souls went up with their inclement weather gear to take on the day. Holstad from Ringerike was up on the first day, likewise with Verkoy. He was there with Evertson and indeed Lopez. Trying to bridge over was Eriksson from Lillehammer CK. And so a long day ensued with some wonderful countryside, but this was about just gathering yourselves as a fighting force, as a 5-man unit. Could they? Would they? This was Herman Eriksson bridging over to turn it into 4. And Mountains points had to be gathered. Evertson it was, teammate of course of our King of the Mountains leader for Lucky Sport Cycling, that pushed on to take this test and make sure nobody ignited a challenge to that coveted King of the Mountains jersey that belongs to their team. Well, they wrestled themselves rather well into a fighting force. The gap though was never a significant one, maxing out at just over 2 minutes. Total were doing most of the driving, hoping that they could bring home something for Jason Tesson, who wore the Blue Points jersey. Well, the rain stopped. All the cold weather gear had to come off, and despite just 11 Celsius, the riders were warmed to the task. Fans out in force. And so, indeed, were the ambitions of those who would duke it out for the final. An intermediate sprint was beckoning, though, with bonus seconds up for grabs. Tedor De Luca from Lucky Sport Cycling once again, our young rider classification leader, he aware of just how important it was to take points at the intermediate, and the drive was happening. Jaco Alula on a turn in the road. They felt the wind potentially changing, so they instilled a bit more urgency, and then it was a question of who was going to take on the task of winding in those up front. Nobody really wanted to put too much into it because they needed their legs at the end. Of course they did. The dramatic scenery almost matched by our finale itself. Very technical, far more so than the opening stage. And as we rocked onto the circuit, we knew that those 90-degree turns were going to have an impact. The breakaway was about to be caught within sight of the intermediate sprint, and then it was all out to try and get some bonus seconds, and we know how important that is in this race, often decided by just a handful of those. Silver it was that burst out for Astana and did a phenomenal job. He drag racing up to the line. He took it ahead of Van Hemelen, but De Luca, the young rider classification leader, also snaffling a couple of points. Brilliant! Good work by Mirko Maestri. He comes up for Polti. He's got the leader, don't forget, in Giovanni Lunardi in the bright yellow jersey. Where's the blue jersey? Boxed in and cramped out of it, I'm afraid. Down in 12th place, so it doesn't look like it's going to be Jason Tesson just for the time being. Super work by Dylan Corkery. I think he's going to have to help himself today. And here comes the big pickup. And of course it's Blicker that goes for it. Behind him is Riley. He's doing a fantastic job spearing through the front. Leonardo Giovanni, but there's Ethan Vernon. Vernon's hitting the front. Oh, it's a blanket finish. The blue jersey's not out of this either. Blicker's going to get there. Whoa, how's about that? Thank you very much. UnoX get the win they want.
I was really motivated for today. Yesterday I had some confidence with my 4th place. I knew I was one of the fastest guys, but I really wanted to improve on that, and I think racing on home soil just gives me extra motivation.
What a fabulous stage winner, and the home race gets a home winner. Nothing better than that. Blicker makes it his own. Vernon, well, just balked ever so slightly. 2nd place for him ahead of Lenardi, Pickerel and Foldager, your top 5. Tesson Manzan, and indeed our leader, stays this man. What a result. A modest margin overall of just 4 seconds, but bonus seconds have helped him. Lenardi stays in the lead in the Midnight Sun jersey. What a race.